All right, I want to welcome everybody out today and have a chance to get together and go over some really major structural changes that we implemented last night. And I know the webinar is very short notice, that's why we're recording this. Okay, from the TSA blog, which is now Biz Logging Buzz, which is now B3, we need to get new graphics yet, so I'm hiding the header. The TSA spreadsheet link is still where the spreadsheet is. This is where the sheet is connected to the site from, and this is still where you go to find things related to accessing the sheet. So if I click on this, when this comes up at the top of the sheet at the moment, there is a link to some spreadsheet notes. These notes are what I'm going to cover today. Okay, these notes talk about what's going on. I should have opened that in a new link. And this notes give you most of what I'm probably going to say on the call today. So if you want to take notes, that's cool. If you don't want to, hopefully you have most of them documented in the notes that I made last night. And what we're going to find is that hopefully with these changes, the system has removed all sorts of layers of complexity. And for some people in the community, that's going to be very frustrating because I have just taken away a whole bunch of stuff that some people appreciate. But I think that this is really going to help us in terms of smoothness, in terms of communication, in terms of explaining this to new people, and in terms of having to put less time and energy into that sheet. Everyone with me? We ready to get started? So I'm over here on the link from the navigation, and I've come into the TSA spreadsheet, and this is where you find the link to the sheet itself and where you find the new password anytime we change the password. So I'm going to copy this password. It says see you on the webinar, so I'm glad to see you on the webinar today. And I'm going to open the link to the spreadsheet. And normally it would prompt up for a password, but I put that in this morning, so it's still in my browser cache. If you get a bit of a hiccup, you may need to clear your browser cache and cookies in order to get it to let you change passwords. Sometimes that happens. And what you're going to see here is that while the right-hand side in white remains very link-filled, that isn't actually the side we engage in. And what we engage in is the side that's mostly colored. We use the links to access stuff. And in the colored section, you'll notice that we've lost a lot of columns. Not really lost, intentionally gotten rid of. Okay, one thing that we have stepped back is towards understanding that our roots are in syndication, but that syndication is comments plus social shares. If we can make that assumption, then we are able to ditch the shares column and use strictly an activity column. And under activity, you only have one column for the week, and you have one column which is the points from the prior week. Okay, so the first column, which currently at the moment has a bunch of zeros because we just changed it, everybody's at zeros unless they added something last night, and then the other column is the numbers from last week, and it also has the cell notes that people have correctly left. So that's all you have to fill in. So let me explain. What is an activity? What is an activity point? I'm going to start at the top of the sheet, or I'm going to start, actually I'll start over here with Niall. Let's just say that I am calculating my numbers for the week. And I am going to visit Niall's site. And when I visit Niall's site, she does not have anything listed in this cell. Okay, hopefully we're seeing the sheet. That's the goal here. That's the goal. And these notes, like I said, these notes that I'm talking you through are over here on the spreadsheet notes page. I'm going to move them somewhere a little more permanent later once we get through this transition. But for now, they're here, and I'll give you a link when I move them. They'll probably become a blog post and stuff too. So if I, as a person on the sheet, am visiting sites, and let's just say that I'm in Red Group, just for the purpose of me not having to scroll down, I'm going to start by visiting Niall's blog. And when I visit Niall's blog, I am going to do a comment and a minimum of 2 social actions. Now here's the trick. What is a social action? A social action can be sharing the post, it can be tweeting the post, it can be digging the post. If that's not appropriate, It can be things like subscribing to their YouTube channel, liking their Facebook page, friending them on Facebook, following them on Twitter. Any of these actions that were generally in the 1 to 3 point category prior are what we are considering social actions. Does that make sense? So when I have taken action on Niall's blog and I have done 1 comment and any 2 social actions, then I get 1 point. Just 1. No multiplier because she has nothing in this box, in this middle column, that indicates a multiplier. Okay, so that would give me 1 point. Let's see, I guess I'll use this block up here to put some numbers in. So I'm going to have equals 1 plus, at the moment it's 0. Whoops, that didn't work. Equals some 1 plus 0. There we go. Okay. Well, that's locked. Sorry, forgot that cell's locked. So I visited Niall. I got 1 point because I took actions on her site. That is called activity or taking an action. There's going to be some difference in use of that verb, so we're going to have to be a little careful with wording. But that earned me 1 point. Now, if I visit Donna's site, again, comment, 2 social actions, any 2 social actions. That's within my discretion. Now, what I don't want to see here is I don't want to see bookmarking to really junk sites. If you've done anything with SEO, you're aware that there are some really junky social bookmarking sites. I really want you to stay in the Big 10, Big 12, whatever, in the more dominant social sites. It doesn't have to be the Big 3, but try to keep it in quality. Try not to short people here. I don't want to have to set a lot of rules to dictate what is and what isn't acceptable. Keep it of quality, and then you can have that flexibility to decide as you need to. Does that make sense? Everybody with me on what I'm looking for in a social action, a social activity, and what constitutes an action and what earns you 1 point? I know that doesn't sound like many points after we've been working with a lot of points, but because we stripped a lot of the modifiers out, it's going to add up correctly. Correct. Correct, Michael. Comment plus 2 social actions equals 1 point. So now I come up here, and if I'm in the red group, I am required for this week to take actions on everybody in my group plus the 2 orange blocks. The orange blocks are the TSA blog, which has always been required, and the top activity person, prior the top commenter, top syndicator. We've just condensed this. I've just wrote activity for now. We may find a better verb. It was kind of late last night. I was a little cross-eyed. We've arrived at activity. And so if I'm in this red group, I'm going to take an action on Niall, and I'm going to get 1 point. And I'm going to take action on Donna, and I'm going to get 1 point. And I'm going to take action on David, and I'm going to get 1 point. I'm at 3. I'm going to take action on Jim, and I'm going to get 1 point. I'm at 4. I'm going to take action on Lynn, and I'm going to get 1 point. I'm at 5. Okay? Now I'm going to take action on Dwayne. Dwayne is marked double points. And this has to do with the fact that he was one of the leaders of who did a lot of actions last week. Okay, double points people were I filtered the list to pull up the people who did a lot of work last week. And so I rewarded them with double points. And then I just kind of put them at tops of groups. Not real scientific and, you know, probably subject to a little variation. Dwayne gets double. So when I take an action, again, 1 comment and 2 social actions on Dwayne, I get, instead of 1 point, I get 2 points. So where was I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 2 is 7. 5, 6, 7. Now we are at 7 points. Are you still with me where I got 7? 7 is what goes in your activity slot. And you will right-click, edit comment, and mark that who you commented on, who you took actions on. You will still leave a cell comment, but it is a lot simpler math. No more of this long formula. I took a look at that formula we'd made, and whoa, was a little heady last week. Everyone with me on where we got 7? Tell me yes, no. We don't know where 7 came from. We know where 7 came from. Okay, we're good. So we got 7. Now, I'm going to move up and I'm going to visit Marty. And Marty, again, 1 comment, 2 social actions, gets me 1 times the triple modifier, which means 3 points. So 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm now at 10 points. Okay, 10. Now TSA block. Again, same theory. Take a comment, 2 social actions. Any 2 social actions work. Multiply it by a triple. It gives you a 3. This gives you 13 total points. That is your minimum for the week, including leaving a cell comment. So if I was Nile, and I'm just going to use her cell, I would edit cell comments, and I would list TSA, Marty, Dwayne, Lynn. I'd preferably put last names in here, please. Jim, David, Donna, Nile. Now, if I did any of these times 2, meaning I earned 2 points, I left 2 comments on different posts or anything I wanted to do, all you need is a little X2 flag. Okay, if you visit the TSA blog and you comment and take action on action, which means comment plus 2 social shares. So you would be X2 if you did that on 2 different posts. And you can do that. You have that flexibility that if there's somebody's blog you're enjoying, poke around the site. That actually helps their bounce rate. If you don't leave immediately, if you'll visit another post, you will not be as detrimental to their bounce rate as sometimes us visiting and immediately leaving can be. So just mark the ones you're times 2 and look at who is your doubles, and it should be a lot more straightforward math because that's really all there is. There's no counting pointer values. There's no counting this number of social shares, this number of comments. You have to do a minimum of 2 social actions. Can you do more than 2 social actions? Definitely. Would we love you to do more than 2 social actions? Definitely. Please do them. But the minimums are 2. Does that make sense? Do we know how I arrive at 13 and where these numbers in here come from? Actually, now, if I up these, then my numbers would go up. But if I'm here, I'm 13. Okay, the note listing that blog comment listings are required is this cell comment. So I'm going to edit cell comment, clear. Okay, so normally you have just zeros here. And after you do your commenting, or as you do your commenting, right click on this cell, edit cell comment, and in this cell comment, fill in who you've commented on. We are an honor system community, okay? We do not physically recheck all of these. However, by listing the people's names there that you have left comments on, it allows mutual accountability, because if I see you write that you've been on my blog, and if I search my blog and my spam folder and I don't see you, I'm going to raise a flag, okay? And other people can raise flags if there is names showing up in the boxes that are not producing comments. This is how we've worked for a long time. This is the honor system backbone of the TSA community. This is why we don't have software and why we don't require it and why we don't have some of the overhead that some other communities do. All you do is you make this note in here and you just say, you know, where you've been, and I'm not going to write them all out again. And then you click OK. And that gives you, well, you can't see it in this red column. This red is hard to see, but there's a little tiny red flag there. It's a little lighter red next to that 0, which would now technically be like a 4. Okay, that says where they've been. And if you hover it, you can see this little pop-out card. And that is the cell comment. That is required. We need you to do this. Okay, am I going to kick you off the sheet if you don't do this? Not right away. Might this get you into trouble and might this raise some questions in the community? You betcha, because this is how we are accountable to each other. You need to do this. So this is called a cell comment, or this blog comment listing. Okay, does that make sense? Everyone with me on how we set up a comment in the cell? So once you've done your, in this case we've done 13 points, which was our entire red group plus our orange group. Now I put those numbers in Niles, but I'm pretending that I have a row there that's red too, that I was in this red group. Now to build further points, what do? You scroll down here and you find other blogs you'd like to visit. Preferably giving some preference to double points and paying attention as a community to who is new and who might be falling out. And I've noted some of these this week because we had some people that had fallen into black group prior. And I've pulled everybody out of the black group and I've been absent, see if I'm okay. These are people that you can assist us by re-engaging with, making sure they're okay, making sure they're current on stuff, seeing if they need anything. If you can do that for us, you will help us foster this community and help prevent fallout. These couple, we had a couple new. We had Melanie Young, we have Jeremy Mosser, and was there a third one? I think that was the only third because I think then Lynn just added some information to the sheet. Let's see, let me clip over here. Let me make sure I have this. In the spreadsheet notes, if you come down, we talk about brief status of everything. The spreadsheet is now the single point of syndication. That means there's no link dropping anywhere else. What does that mean for the LinkedIn group? It means the LinkedIn group is going away. There are a number of structural reasons for this. Some of them are kind of convoluted. Most of them have to do with a twofold aspect of, one, we divided the community, which was painful, and two, the lack of notifications, the lack of tagging, or well, not really lack of notifications, the lack of ability to tag someone, the lack of ability to specifically call somebody's attention to something made the group very challenging for us to use on a discussion side. So it didn't correctly fill either role we were hoping it would fill. So that means we needed to pull back, regroup, and look, I needed to look at that point at really making the sheet more straightforward. I wasn't going to send everybody back to the sheet until the sheet was so much easier to understand. And I hope that that's where we've arrived at. So what are we doing if we're closing the LinkedIn group? That means we are back in the Facebook group. And for the moment, that is the current Facebook group. But in due time, we are going to transition to a new group because I can't rename the silly thing. Thank you, Facebook. You're making things challenging. But the Facebook group can't be renamed. So to keep everything congruent, we will need to move to a new Facebook group. We're not doing that this week because we have too many irons in the fire, too many moving parts at once. So the Facebook group becomes where we will have support, where we'll have discussions, where we'll have questions, banter, that kind of stuff. No link sharing there. At this moment, I have capped the ability for anybody to write on the wall in the group. And I've done that because there is about 50 or 60 individuals that have applied for the group membership that I need to get them in the door and make sure they don't spam the snot out of the place before I can get them pointed into where we're going. I had halted allowing people into the Facebook group so I could make sure that everybody was on the same page. And now I need to bring them in a controlled environment so I can get them onto the sheet. Once I do that, and once the group looks like we're not going to get spammed to death, then I will open it up so you can post on the wall in the group. Okay, that really is the goal. I'm going to open that back up. And that way we'll have that free flow of communication like we've always had in the Facebook group that we actually liked. And it should be less cluttered since we're removing link sharing from there again. Awesome, Lydia. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate all the help as we go along. And that's really the key here. The key here is going to be reaching out to other members. If somebody looks like they're falling through the cracks, reach out to them. If there's a member you haven't seen in a couple months, reach out to them. If there's somebody that could be invited, invite them. That really is what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us to make this happen. And it's going to take, you know, everybody picking up all the slack they can find. If you can spot any slack, if you can spot the ability to jump in and do it. You're not going to step on anybody's toes. There's lots of room for jumping in. And so this documents, under spreadsheet, this documents, you know, what is activity? Activity is comment plus perform 2 or more social actions. A social action is anything like liking a fan page, friending a person, tweeting a post, +1 in content, subscribing on YouTube, stumbles, etc. I will kind of go through the old point doc later and see if I can fine tune some stuff to get a little clearer, but I think it's reasonably clear at the moment. When in doubt, if it's a social kind of thing, it probably counts as a social action. That's kind of the way it goes. Active on a post is that comment +2 social actions, and then you just times it times your multiplier. So it's either 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points. At this moment, there is nothing you can do to earn 4 points at one time. Okay? You might earn 2 points twice and get 4, but you can't earn 4 points at once. We're not doing all those big convoluted, well, this is worth this, and that's worth that, and this is worth this. We ain't doing that. Okay? That was kind of a headache, and I think that's where we got some of the complicatedness from. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, I've got half the community that is not yet editing the cell comment. So obviously we've got a bit of an education gap there. So I need to fill that education gap so we can get people doing that so that we don't need the notes. And I think that once we get fluid on this, my goal, the reason I have not revamped the whole funnel that brings people into TSA is that I wanted to get where we were very stable, very streamlined, and easy to explain to new people. If this works, then in 2 weeks, I will sit down and I will do a new front-end video, I will do a new training video, and we will really streamline the process to bring people in. In 2 weeks, we should be ready. If this works as well as I hope it does, I'm optimistic here, then if this works, we will then be ready to bring new people in about 2 weeks. That work for everyone? Now, that's not to say that new people can't get in. People are still welcome to come in, jump in the white cells. All they do is they come to the sheet, put themselves in the white row, and I rotate them in. People are still welcome. Go ahead and invite people if you want, as long as you can help them get here. We just don't have the training funnel in place yet. Okay. Now, a couple things have been, we've corrected some of the problems that existed in the community. By stripping that SharePoint stuff out, we corrected all sorts of things that were bugging people. There's one more thing that's bugging people, and I want to address that. And the statement on the sheet notes is, where does it say? Where does it say? It says there are a few other things that will count as comments. Actually, they're probably going to count as activity. So just, you know, count as the 2 social plus the comment so that you get a point out of it. So what would count as that? Social reviews. If you leave a LinkedIn recommendation or any other social review. For example, I have a social review app on my Facebook page. If you leave a social review there, that gets you a point. In my case, I'm under double points, so that gets you 2 points. At least I think I'm under double points. I may not be. In fact, I don't even know where I'm at this week. Here I am. I'm under double points. So if you leave a social review on my Facebook post, it counts as a comment plus a social action. So you get a point. And we did that so that we could continue building LinkedIn recommendations and other very strong social proof. Okay? Now, what doesn't exactly work there? We have a couple members in the community who are blogging, and I say that with quotes, I'm making little quote fingers here, off of their YouTube channels. This makes sense. I understand what's happening here, and I understand why. And I'm not necessarily going to dissuade it. I do think that's a dangerous proposition, but that is their right to make. So if that is their blog, if they list in their blog column that their YouTube channel is their blog for the week, then you visit the YouTube's channel and you do a comment on a video, or subscribe to the channel for a social action, or tweet a video for a social action, or you can still do your point because you can still comment on something and take 2 social actions. Does that make sense? So any of these other platforms, it doesn't matter what platform they're on. If they're on Tumblr, if they're on YouTube, if they are doing everything from their Facebook business page and don't have a blog, it becomes their blog. If it's in the blog column, it functions like a blog. This should remove all of the questions of what do we do with these YouTube bloggers? What do we do with these Tumblr bloggers? What do we do with any of them? If it's in the blog column, we're going to treat it as a blog. Can we do that? Air bunnies, yeah, air quotes. Little air bunnies. The other big one, where I was going with that, is that I don't want to single anybody out here. Let's say there was another row in this red column, and let's say this was Jane Doe. And let's say I visited Jane Doe's blog and there was issues. Now, you're never required to syndicate stuff that doesn't work. You're never required to syndicate a site that has issues. You're never required to tweet content that isn't in your niche out to your carefully controlled Twitter account. Okay, we leave lots of room for personal discretion. However, you still need to leave a comment. But there is times that there are people who are simply impossible to comment on. Either their site is 6 months out of date. There's a bunch of these in the community at the moment. I'm not happy about that. It is what it is. I won't comment on them. I've commented on those posts. Those posts are 6 months old. There's nothing I can do about that. Or the site has real issues, or the site is like super heavy promotional, or you can't even dig in the archives and find something worth commenting on. One of those kind of situations. You know what I'm talking about. If you've been in the community for very long, you've encountered a blog like that. Oftentimes they're novices. How do you get your credit for doing that? You go to their contact form and you'll leave them an anonymous contact form with a review. You mention what is going on, you mention what you see, and you mention it constructively. You can choose to say that you are from TSA, or you can do this completely anonymously. If they don't have a contact form, that's not your problem. Okay? Blogs should have a contact form. We've covered that on our blog, on our community blog before, and there is a blog post that talks about how to add a contact form. But if they have a contact form, you can fulfill your activity point by leaving them a review. And the review just tells them what you're seeing. It tells them what's going on. It tells them maybe they are well over the 80-20 rule, which is technically the 10-90 rule. Okay, if they're well over that, that's some constructive feedback. If their site comments don't work. No, if you're leaving them a review in their contact form, it doesn't take 2 socials. Generally, we're skipping these are sites that are really impossible to syndicate. You know, that either have serious structural, like technical issues, or have integrity issues, or have promotional issues, or have something. And you can do this on a site that you just don't feel right about commenting on. Okay? There's going to be those sites. Sometimes your gut check is going to say no, and you can't say, well, this site is bad, this site has issues. Well, if you can't pass the gut check, then go to their contact form and leave them some feedback on what you're seeing. Maybe it's positive. Maybe it's an awesome feedback. Maybe there's things they're doing right. Those kind of things are very, very valuable to a blogger. And if we can get each other, helping each other give this feedback, then we're going to grow as a community. If you leave positive feedback, you might want to do it with your name on it. You don't have to do that anonymous, but you don't have to leave challenging feedback with your name on it if you don't want to. I understand. It is very challenging to leave difficult feedback, and it is very challenging to risk bruising feelings and not being protected from somebody that could lash at you because they get hurt. Okay? But at the same time, we want to be giving strong reviews. Do you have to write a book? No. Do you need to write more than 2 sentences? Yes. Hope that makes sense. We're going, the whole quality comment thing, same aspect. That should wrap everything up. Where are you at? Does this make sense in terms of points and point replacements? There's only a few things that replace points because most of it is pretty well wrapped into what we've already set up. Yeah, I'd love to add email back, but there's just no way. We've had too many times of all that email being scraped. And so we're going to add some of these social channels back. We'll get YouTube back in here. We'll get the other Facebook column back in here. We'll get, I think there's something else we're missing. Skype. Skype is missing out of here. And we'll get those back in here. We cannot get email, and that is why Marty was thankful enough, I appreciate her, having gone through the community and made sure we had current email addresses on everyone on record. Okay, so that way it's behind closed doors, it's in hands of core community, but it can't easily be scraped. And I know that that's challenging. We'd really like to be able to share that, and sometimes spammers ruin things for you. All right, this is really it. This is the synopsis. There is no additional calculations, none of that. Everything else happens when the sheet rolls. It's really straightforward. There's one top person. There is the same 4-week sit-out. We might need to adjust that. Several people have asked for a 6-week sit-out on that. At the moment, we're still at 4 weeks, or 3, yeah, if it's been 4. So we're still at that rotation. We might shift that if it turns out that we need to. At the moment, we don't, but we can certainly bring that up for evaluation. A lot of other things stay the same. You know where the TSA community is. The old URL redirects to the blog at the moment. We are on the new URL. We're going to get new graphics. We're going to get new logos. Those are things we just don't have. If you're graphically inclined, give us a hand. Could use those. I'm not graphically inclined. I am not a graphic designer, and so that is not a good use of my time or my skill set, because you'd end up with a really ugly logo. I promise. You don't want that. As usual, the real goal here will be to get feedback from you over the next 2 weeks, to really let you put this through its paces, to really see if this improves things, and to let me know your thoughts. It's only through that kind of feedback that we've been able to make changes that are hopefully moving us forward. We've learned an awful lot about things that don't work, which is useful information. Hopefully we're getting onto some stuff that does work. So give me your feedback on that. Let me know what you think. And hopefully this also improves the ease of explaining it to new members, and so you're going to start to feel more comfortable inviting people into the community because you're going to feel you can explain this to someone. And that really is the goal, a robust system while making the ease of use being able for most people to grasp it. All right, thank you everyone. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you in the Facebook group or on the blog.